Nestled in the sun-soaked hills of Palm Springs, California, the James Holmes House is a stunning mid-century modern masterpiece. It was the home of Hollywood actor and producer James Holmes, a charismatic figure in 1940s cinema. But behind its sleek design and glittering Hollywood connection lies a tale of mystery, tragedy, and the supernatural. Built in 1939 by renowned architect William Hemmings, the house was a gift to Holmes from his studio after a string of successful films. It became a hub for the era's most glamorous stars' lavish parties, whispered affairs, and even quiet retreats from the chaotic Hollywood spotlight. However, the house's history predates Holmes's glittering ownership. Local legends suggest that the land it was built on had a much darker past. In the late 1800s, the site was a homestead for the Brayton family, who mysteriously disappeared one fateful night in 1887. No bodies were ever found, but neighbors claimed to hear anguished cries echoing from the property for years afterward. James Holmes moved into the house at the height of his career in 1940. At first, the estate was his sanctuary, a place of creativity and solace. But as the years went on, strange events began to unfold. Holmes confided in close friends that he felt an unseen presence in the house. Doors would slam shut on their own. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways. Most chillingly, he claimed to hear a woman's voice humming an old folk tune late at night. Several guests corroborated these experiences, swearing they saw shadowy figures at the edge of the sprawling gardens. The incidents escalated in 1946, following the mysterious death of Holmes's fiancée, Clara Monroe. Clara had been found lifeless at the bottom of the estate's grand staircase, her neck broken. Authorities ruled it an accident, but whispers of foul play circulated. Holmes, devastated and reclusive, spent most of his time alone in the house afterward. Neighbors reported hearing him scream Clara's name during the nights. In 1952, James Holmes was found dead in his study, slumped over his typewriter. The official cause of death was listed as a heart attack, but his death only deepened the house's eerie reputation. On the typewriter was an unfinished script about a man haunted by the ghost of his beloved, eerily mirroring his own life. The house remained abandoned for decades before being bought and restored in the 1980s. The new owners, unaware of its infamous past, reported strange occurrences almost immediately. Lights flickered inexplicably, objects moved on their own, and guests felt unseen hands brushing against them. One particularly unsettling story involved a family friend who stayed in the guest room. She woke in the middle of the night to see a woman in a flowing white dress standing at the foot of the bed, staring at her with mournful eyes. When she screamed, the figure disappeared, leaving behind the faint scent of gardenias, Clara Monroe's favorite flower. Today, the James Holmes House remains one of Palm Springs' most notorious landmarks. Visitors who dare to enter report cold spots, whispers in empty rooms, and the overwhelming feeling of being watched. Paranormal investigators claim the house is a hotspot of activity, with both Holmes and Clara Monroe's spirits refusing to leave. Despite its ominous reputation, the house still draws curiosity seekers and ghost hunters from around the world. Its beauty is undeniable, but those who step through its doors must reckon with the shadows of its tragic past. Over time, the James Holmes House became an irresistible enigma for both paranormal enthusiasts and thrill seekers. Yet, it wasn't just the whispers of the supernatural that drew people in, it was the unanswered questions lingering in the home's dark history. In 2003, during a routine inspection for plumbing repairs, a contractor discovered a hidden door in the basement. Behind it was a small, windowless room containing nothing but a single wooden chair and a dusty phonograph. The record on the turntable was warped with age, but when touched, it inexplicably began spinning. The scratchy sound of the needle was followed by a faint, haunting melody, a song eerily similar to the one Holmes had described hearing late at night. What was this room? Why had it been hidden? And why did the song seem to evoke a deep sense of sorrow and dread for those who heard it? These questions haunted the new owner, who refused to enter the basement again. In 2015, a filmmaker rented the house for a period piece. While scouting the location, he came across an antique mirror in the master bedroom. The mirror, though ornately framed and beautifully preserved, had something strange about it. Those who stared into its surface claimed to see fleeting shapes moving behind their own reflections, figures that seemed to mimic them but with slight, horrifying differences. One of the production crew, a skeptic, laughed off the stories and decided to sleep in the room with the mirror. The next morning he was gone. His bed was untouched, his belongings still in place, but no trace of him was ever found. The only clue was a single handprint pressed against the inside of the mirror's glass. Locals tell tales of tourists who venture too close to the property and leave changed, sometimes physically ill, other times deeply unsettled. One young woman reported being drawn to the house by an overwhelming feeling she couldn't explain. She claimed she saw a man standing in the second-story window, his silhouette outlined against the curtains. He raised a hand as if beckoning her. When she returned home, her dreams were plagued by visions of the man. He stood at the foot of her bed, whispering, "Come back. She's waiting for you." The next day, she drove back to the house but was never seen again. Audio recordings taken by paranormal investigators reveal a chilling discovery. In the study where Holmes was found dead, faint whispers can be heard in the background of every recording. When slowed down, the voice becomes clear. A woman softly crying and repeating, "James, don't leave me." No one knows whether this voice belongs to Clara Monroe or if it's something else entirely. Investigators have also reported sudden feelings of overwhelming sadness in the room, with one even collapsing and claiming he felt his soul being drained. In the attic, hidden beneath layers of insulation, an investigator recently uncovered a stack of journals believed to belong to James Holmes. These entries, written during the last years of his life, tell a story no one was prepared for. Holmes wrote about discovering a passage, a place in the house that connected this world to another, a dark and terrifying plane where she lived. Who was she? Clara? Or something far more sinister? The final journal entry was cut off mid-sentence, the ink smeared as though Holmes had been interrupted. "I can hear her again, calling me from the staircase. She says she's lonely. She says she wants to." The rest of the page is blank. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. Despite the growing legends, the James Holmes House continues to captivate those with a fascination for the unknown. With each passing decade, the house's secrets seem to deepen, its unanswered questions multiplying. And the more people investigate, the more dangerous their pursuit becomes. In early 2022, a team of professional paranormal investigators gained permission to stay in the house for an entire week. On the third night, they discovered a hidden compartment in the fireplace of the grand living room. Inside was a leather-bound journal, its pages brittle with age. The journal, later dubbed the Black Book, was filled with entries written in a cryptic, indecipherable language. Linguists and codebreakers from around the world attempted to translate it, but none succeeded. However, one chilling observation was made. Every few pages, a sketch of a tall, shadowy figure appeared. The figure was drawn with unnerving precision, its eyes replaced by void-like circles. On the final page of the book, written in English, was a single sentence. "The house lives through her, and she lives through the house." The investigators left the house the following morning, shaken but eager to unravel the mystery. None of them made it home. Their van was found abandoned on a desert highway, with no signs of struggle or foul play. The Black Book was missing. Locals have long spoken of the house's spiral staircase, a striking centerpiece crafted from dark mahogany. For years, visitors reported hearing soft, melodic whistling emanating from the staircase late at night. Recently, audio engineers studying the house's acoustics made a disturbing discovery. They captured the sound on high-tech equipment and analyzed it. When isolated, the whistling revealed a pattern. It wasn't random, but an old melody, an eerie match to the folk song often associated with Clara Monroe's spectral presence. Stranger still, the analysis revealed faint murmurs beneath the whistling, as though multiple voices were singing in harmony, trapped within the melody. The lead engineer, a pragmatic skeptic, quit the project the following day, claiming he felt something watching through the sound. He has refused all interviews since. Renovations on the house have often been met with inexplicable phenomena, but one recent event has baffled even the most hardened skeptics. In 2023, a team of contractors was tasked with converting the study into a modern office space. The team measured and remeasured the area to ensure precision, but when they began construction, the dimensions didn't add up. A wall that had always been there seemed to vanish overnight, exposing a previously unknown doorway. Behind it was a long, narrow corridor leading to a circular room with no windows and no apparent purpose. The room contained a single item, a small wooden box, locked with an intricate mechanism. Curiously, the box was cold to the touch, so cold that it caused frostbite on one contractor's hands. The workers left the house that evening, intending to return the next day with specialized tools. By morning, the corridor and the circular room were gone. All that remained was the faint imprint of a door on the wall. In recent years, drone footage of the property has revealed strange patterns in the sprawling gardens that surround the house. From above, the landscaping appears to form symbols, some resembling ancient sigils, others unrecognizable. A botanist hired to study the plants on the property claimed to hear voices while walking the grounds. She described the sensation as words pressed directly into her mind, urging her to dig beneath the soil near the garden's center. When asked if she complied, she simply replied, "I didn't have to. They already know." She refused further interviews and has since left the field entirely. Despite the countless tales, discoveries, and disappearances, the James Holmes House remains unsolved. It defies explanation, a place where reality seems to fray and unravel. Some claim the house is alive, feeding on those who enter its walls. Others insist that Holmes himself became part of the entity, a guardian or a prisoner bound to the house for eternity. Yet one undeniable truth persists. Each time someone investigates the house, the stories grow darker, and the house's power seems to grow stronger. And somewhere deep within its walls, beneath layers of history and shadow, something waits. For whom or for what remains a question too terrifying to answer. The James Holmes House has an insidious way of luring people back to its mysteries. No matter how many flee, how many vanish, or how many swear never to return, the house always seems to find new prey. And for those who dare to confront its secrets, the line between reality and nightmare becomes dangerously blurred. The property's pool, an elegant centerpiece framed by desert mountains, has its own sinister reputation. For decades, visitors reported seeing faint ripples on its glass-like surface, even on windless nights. Some described dark shapes moving beneath the water, despite it being crystal clear. In 2024, a photographer staying at the house decided to capture the pool at night. Through her lens, the still water seemed to shimmer unnaturally. But as she reviewed the photos, her hands began to shake. In each image, she saw shadowy figures emerging from the water, elongated forms with hollow eyes and stretched mouths. The photographer's screams woke the neighbors, but by the time they arrived, she was gone. Her camera was left behind, submerged in the pool, with no trace of the photos she had taken. In the foyer of the house sits an ornate grandfather clock, an heirloom said to predate Holmes's ownership. Strangely, its face bears no numbers, only a series of strange symbols arranged in a spiral. For years, it was dismissed as a decorative piece until a repairman attempted to fix it in 2018. When he opened the clock's mechanism, he found its gears turning in reverse. Puzzled but undeterred, he continued his work, only to feel an intense cold envelop him. Later, he reported hearing faint ticking in his ears even after leaving the property. Months later, visitors noticed something chilling. The clock's symbols had shifted slightly, as though they were rearranging themselves. Paranormal researchers now believe the clock is a countdown, but to what, no one can say. Holmes's study is infamous for unexplained phenomena, but the latest reports suggest a new, chilling addition. Visitors have claimed to hear faint piano music drifting through the house late at night. Strangely, the melody is never the same but always feels oddly familiar, as though it's drawing from the listener's own memories. One man, a composer visiting the house in 2021, claimed the music was identical to a lullaby his mother used to sing. He followed the sound to the study, only to find the piano lid closed and a thin layer of dust undisturbed on the keys. When he turned to leave, he saw a reflection in the window. A woman standing behind him, her face obscured, her hands resting on the keys of an invisible piano. The composer fled the house that night, abandoning his belongings. He hasn't been seen since. A team of documentarians gained access to Holmes's private collection in late 2024, hoping to uncover clues about his final years. Among the artifacts was a crumpled page from an unfinished script Holmes had been writing at the time of his death. The script described a man haunted by a spectral figure who whispered secrets about the afterlife. But as the researchers read further, they were stunned to find their own names listed among the script's characters, complete with disturbingly accurate details about their lives. One researcher attempted to burn the page, but the flames wouldn't touch it. Instead, the paper darkened, as though it were absorbing the fire. A faint whisper filled the room. Write the ending. Perhaps the most unsettling feature of the house is one that defies all logic. A room that appears only to certain visitors. Descriptions vary: a nursery, a ballroom, a library, but the one constant is its inexplicable appearance. Visitors who enter this phantom room often find objects that seem to be tied to their past. A childhood toy, a lost photograph, even items they've never seen but feel strangely connected to. Those who linger too long in the room report feeling as though time itself is slowing, their thoughts growing muddled. One woman claimed she saw her future self staring back at her from a mirror, mouthing silent warnings. When asked what the warnings were, she only whispered, "The house is awake." Theories about the house's origins have always centered on the land it occupies. Some believe the ground holds an ancient curse, tied to the Brayton family's disappearance. Others speculate the house itself was a trap built not for living, but for containing something that should never have been released. In 2024, ground-penetrating radar was used to scan the property, revealing an enormous, labyrinthine structure buried beneath the house. Archaeologists attempted to excavate the site, but their efforts were halted when the lead researcher vanished overnight. The excavation remains incomplete, and no one dares to resume it. Whatever is beneath the house, it seems determined to remain hidden until it decides otherwise. The James Holmes House continues to defy explanation, its mysteries only deepening with each attempt to uncover them. The more people look, the more the house seems to resist, as though guarding secrets too dangerous to reveal. And yet, something about the house feels unfinished. Visitors often describe a sensation of being pulled toward a final answer, an ending to the story that remains just out of reach. But what waits at the end of that story may be something humanity was never meant to uncover. The James Holmes House had always resisted finality. Every attempt to explain its mysteries seemed to provoke more questions, and every investigator who ventured too close left the house, if they left at all, with more fear than answers. But in October 2024, one group dared to push further than anyone before, determined to bring closure to the decades of unanswered terror. A group of 5 experienced paranormal researchers arrived at the house on Halloween night, armed with the latest technology and a determination to uncover the truth. Among them was Dr. Evelyn Marks, a renowned investigator who had dedicated her career to studying the supernatural. She believed the house wasn't just haunted, it was a living entity, feeding on the energy of those who entered. Dr. Marks brought with her an experimental device, a resonance disruptor designed to detect and amplify supernatural frequencies. She theorized the house was bound to the land through a specific energy signature, and if she could trace it to its source, she might unravel its power. Their investigation began smoothly if unnervingly. Cameras picked up shadowy movements, and EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, captured faint voices pleading, "Don't wake her." By midnight, the group decided to descend into the basement, where they believed the heart of the house's power lay. Dr. Marks activated the disruptor, and the room filled with a low, pulsating hum. First, nothing happened. Then, the air grew icy, and the walls seemed to tremble. The hidden door, once sealed, creaked open on its own, revealing the same circular room reported by contractors years earlier. This time, the room was different. Symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly in the dark. At the center of the room was the wooden box, its intricate lock now glowing red. As the group approached the box, the disruptor began to overheat, emitting sharp, piercing tones. The air grew heavy, and each member of the group felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Then came the voice, a woman's voice, echoing through the chamber. "Leave this place. She must not be disturbed." Despite the warning, Dr. Marks pressed forward. She opened the box, revealing its contents. A single, withered rose and a scrap of paper with a single word scrawled in Holmes's handwriting, "Forever." The room shook violently, and the faint glow of the symbols flared into blinding light. The team fled, dragging Dr. Marks with them as the house seemed to come alive, walls groaning, doors slamming, and a deafening sound like a heartbeat pounding through the halls. The group barely escaped with their lives. When they reached the outside, the house fell silent. The basement door, the circular room, and the symbols were gone as though they had never existed. But Dr. Marks wasn't the same. She stood motionless on the lawn, staring back at the house with a vacant expression. When one of her colleagues touched her shoulder, she whispered, "It's not the house, it's her. She's waiting." Later that night, Dr. Marks vanished without a trace. Her belongings were left untouched in her hotel room, and the disruptor was found smashed, its data wiped clean. The James Holmes house remains standing, unchanged by the events of that night. Visitors still report strange occurrences, whispers, shadows, and fleeting glimpses of a woman in white standing at the windows. Paranormal researchers continue to be drawn to its mysteries, but none dare approach the basement again. The house's story, it seems, will never truly end. Whatever secrets lie within its walls, they remain as elusive as ever. But those who step through its doors are warned. The house is not what it seems. It's watching, it's waiting, and it's hungry. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. Any coincidences with real events or characters are accidental.